good? Okay, now, the other Mr. Conrad, was it the Pioneer statue or something where there was some,
Yeah, there's
vandalism?
4 lights in there, and then there's that little frog that sits on top, and someone come along and threw rocks and broke all 4 lights, and then broke the frog right off the pedestal. And when it was all said and done, it was like $5,300 with the installation. And that's something that I can't do, so there was no way, you know, I'm not an electrician.
No, I
I'm
understand.
not.
So that's a perfect example of how we utilize that fund and something happens. We've also pressure washed, we've done some recoating on some of them. I know that, man, 3-4 years ago that some of the statues started to tarnish a little bit, and Ashley brought an expert in and was able to do work on all the statues, and they did that at, as a donation to the park too. So just some examples.
A question on the, I don't know if that system right here is the next part, where they letter, as fact for the American Legion, we've got a American Legion plaque up there, up by the big red one, and they put our commanders' names in there. As far as the cost of that, is that sent to the American Legion then? Let's see, I might have, where would that be on there? It would be lettering, this is the lettering thing. So I don't know if the city takes care of that, or, because the American Legion could pay for it.
I'm sure you know.
I don't see.
Does the Legion, when a new commander's name is put up there, does the Legion get billed for that, or is that a city?
That is something that the city
Has done?
has picked up.
Oh, okay. Because Gary Bouch has been taking care of it now, right?
Correct.
Okay. I just kind of wondered, because I don't know if we're going to get a bill or not.
Even, was that the one that added Mr. Ziegler and?
We put our new commander up there, and then put my term up there. We do that every about 3 years.
That was, I believe, one of the bills that you approved last night. It was maybe a couple $100.
Yeah.
Yes.
How much money is in the monument preservation fund?
Mrs. Burke, can I have that capital outlay sheet, please? That's not the capital outlay. Oh, yeah, it is. And what? As of, well, this has got a November 30th date, how do I,
Well, we just run over it.
just an end of the month.
Actually, that's what the system on it.
So it says the 30th, but it's a year to date, and this was printed today. Yes.
I found it under last night's bill, yeah. Lewiston Monument Company, $345 lettering completed at Soldiers Walk, so I just kind of wondered if that's what they quote that. That's probably what it was, right? Is that right, Angela?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the sheet that I handed to you, please look at the second line down that says October 31st, 2015. The second line down will say October, and on the other side it will say November. If you look at the October side here, these capital outlay accounts that you had just alluded to, Dr. Fetch, you'll see City Hall capital outlay, Aquatic Center capital outlay, garbage truck fund, and all the like. You'll see a beginning balance. The transfers that came out of that as of the end of October 31st of 2015, and then that adjusted balance. And then if you flip over to the other side, there were some adjustments in that as well, as far as allocations. You'll see the exact same accounts with the account numbers. The one thing that I would ask you to pay attention to or call your attention to is the second line down says November 30th, 2015. The way the software works is that it does end of the month balances, but and that's why it says November 30th, but right now it's year to date printed today. So that gives you a balance. So when we were talking about the monument preservation fund, you'll see about 5 up from the bottom, it's got a balance in there of $19,890.45.
Is that 19,890?
Yes.
19,890.45.
Thank you.
And if you look over on the October 31st, 2015 side, again, 5 up from the bottom, monument preservation fund, they had a beginning balance of $25,090.45, and then the $5,200 that came out of that is the project that Raleigh was talking about. So that gives you updated balances for those. I hope that answers your question. Anything else on the park maintenance budget?
Yes. Where is Detloff Park and Killian Park?
We have actually 8 parks in our town. Hall Park is over on County A. It's a little nature trail. And we've got the Schultz Park, which is behind the Lutheran Church.
I know that.
Across the river, we've got the Rudy Clintier Park. Shank Park is the soccer field. Memorial Park, obviously up on top of the hill. Killian Park is over on the far east end of Arcadia, but on this side of Highway 93. It would be up behind like Snook Schreiber's and Tom Picca's up in that area.
It's a walk-in only.
Then we've got a Fairfield Top Park, which is up by Mrs. Gadzinski and across the street from Mrs. Jane Weisenberger. And then our last park, Detloff, would be behind Mrs. Jane Weisenberger's house. You'll see a basketball court and a baseball diamond and some smaller stuff.
By the motel, right?
Yes,
Rob Wright, I have a question in regards to the park maintenance budget. To me, it seems like we're almost under budget. 2014, we spent 128,000. 2015, we spent 94,000. 2015, we're over that. Now we're going to be at 61,867. Seems a little low. Past history, we've been at that $85,000 to $90,000 mark, and now we're going to be all the way down to 60,000, 61,000. What you're budgeting seems a little low, but.
I'd like to comment on that. I'm going to refer back to the statements that I made when we first started talking about parks. I said that there will be a certain number of blank spaces that you'll see in here as far as benches, the visitor center, Hall Park, Schultz Park, and had indicated that we had made several upgrades to all those parks, and those parks have since been upgraded, and therefore the budget is not needed for those right now. We bought a merry-go-round last year. We don't need to replace it this year, so we didn't budget for it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make one comment? If you look at the 2014 budget for the Eagle Scout projects, you know, I don't have the revenue figures exactly for that, but a lot of that was donated, so that would show up on the revenue side as a donation.
And that's something that we've had in the past, especially with regards to Shank Park, when the Wannick family donated for the Joyce Wannick Pavilion. Like Angela said, the Kyle Boo's Eagle Scout project. There's been tree donations, and so oftentimes you'll see an expense. And I had asked people last night to remember that you take a look at the revenue side as well, because when those donations come in, this is actually an expenditure, not a revenue portion of the budget. So if there's ever any questions about that, absolutely trackable, and we can, you know, show that this donation came in from here or there. So,
Question, Mr. Mayor?
yes.
If an amount in the budget isn't used in one line here, for instance, if in utilities expense is $10,000, but we need something for benches, some of that money would be or could be taken out of another part of the budget to utilize it in that spot, is that correct?
That's correct, and a budget reallocation is something that would be put on the agenda and requires a 2/3 vote of the council. Also, last night when we did different reallocations, that's how it would happen. And what we would say, just for your example, if you look way over on the left-hand corner of the budget, the 4th line down, under Memorial Park utility expenses, says 101-55510-.3401. If you wanted to move that down to benches and say there was $1,000, what we would do is put budget reallocation from that account down to 101-55510.3404 for $1,000 and then what the transfer is for, and then that would require a 2/3 vote of the council.
Mayor?
Yes.
Would that always come out of the, say we're talking about a park item here, would that always come out of the park budget then?
No. That can be, because they're all general fund items, unless they're specifically restricted by where the funds came from. You could absolutely, let's say you had a Memorial Park bench fund here, and it had $1,000, and you wanted to move it over to the aquatic center, that could be, or it could be moved over to, court training or something like that.
So a comment, sir, then it would be a good idea when we do this reallocation to have this in hand so we can kind of see where it's coming from, because I don't remember all this.
Not only that, but if a budget reallocation is gonna be, recommended prior to asking for it to be put on the agenda and just assuming that it's okay, I would advise 2 steps. The first one would be to get a year-to-date expense report from that account, and that can be run from Mrs. Berg or the staff at any time. The other thing is if we're going to move money from a park over to the police department or something, by all means, double check with those department heads as well, because if those funds are gonna be allocated for something, or they haven't spent it yet, but it's sometimes an end of the year expense, it's a good idea to double check with those department heads.
So it would be a good idea to, before a meeting, to do this. And of course, if we have an agenda that's set up, hopefully it'll be in time so that we would have time to do all this. I guess that's one of my points, so that we can go and check with this or with the department heads, right? That'd be a good idea, right?
And if you have an issue where a department head brings something to us, just let them know that you're gonna need to check a year-to-date spreadsheet for expenditures there, and then you're also gonna check with both of the department heads if it's a different department. Okay.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
I have a question on that. Where in this budget is that new park that you did last night that you voted on? Where is that? Is that in this budget or not at all?
It's not in this budget because that's a different fund. Those funds came from the interfund transfer, and that's a new park in TIF District number 4. The TIF District dollars are not part of the general fund budget here.
Oh. Just curious.
But next year would be, right? Or they're
No, it'll show up as expenditures, but it will, it's not budgeted in here because that was part of the interfund budget transfer. So, yes.
I have a question, Sean Segura. So any TIF money is not part of your budget at all?
If you would look back to, just hold that question for a second, Sean. If you would look back to page 19, you will see something called the debt service budget, and we'll get to that in a little bit, Sean. But the TIF district dollars used to be a part of this, but now just for easier for tracking and for auditing, the TIF district dollars are not part of the debt service budget, but still overseen by the common council and administered by the city clerk. So, yes.
Antoinette Johnson, help me out, explain that again. He asked about the TIF district money, you said, take us to debt service budget, but it's not in the debt service budget. Then I don't think we got an
Okay.
answer.
I'm sorry, I didn't finish the statement. I should have, and I just assumed here. The TIF district used to be part of that debt service, and it was reflected in the budget. And now this year for tracking and auditing, it is independent of the budget, but still under the authority and control of the council and administered by the city clerk.
So nowhere do we see the TIF district money? Do
No.
we ever see it in print then, is where I'm coming from?
Not now, because the TIF districts have also gone through what the statutes call distressing, where it extends the payback period of the TIF districts, and the expenditure period, while it ends next summer, the council will not be using the TIF district as a financing tool for any additional projects. The expenditure period for the TIFs are essentially done. And that was all gone through during our meetings on the TIF district and the joint review board and the like. So the council did actually get to hear that a couple of times already, but just for the sake of the general public that maybe didn't make those meetings, the TIF district expenditures are no longer, so they will not be in this budget.
That being said, because we pulled them out into their own fund, and I think this is maybe the second year we've done that, we have the budgets for, TID 3 and TID 4, the revenue comes in, the expenditures go out. It might not be a bad idea to put that on the next agenda just so that you guys have that information.
And the only expenditures that are gonna be going out of the TIF districts right now are the administrative fees and the debt service repayments. So yes, Mr.
How
Sedona.
many TIF districts are you managing right now?
2. We've got TIF District 3 that encompasses the Ashley facilities right down behind us here to the west and on this side of the river. And then we have TIF District number 4 that is up on the east end of town, and it would include the area like Buck Country Green, Shopco, that area up behind like where the new substation is. Feeler, all the feeler companies, the new Mayo Clinic area, that section of town.
So that's District 4?
4, correct.
And you only have 2?
Yes,
And what is Ashley, District 1?
District 3.
So where are 1 and 2?
They have since been closed out and are no longer in existence. Anything further on the parks budget?
Question on those tips, just, can they be reactivated, 1 and 2?
I'm gonna flip the page to the recreation budget. What happens if you wanna start a new TIF district is they do an analysis. If, the TIF districts by law, you cannot open a new TIF district unless the valuation of the TIF districts are less than, or 12% or less than the total, is it equalized value of the entire community. So just for some raw numbers, if the whole community was worth $100 million and the TIF districts were worth $11,500,000, you could open up a new TIF district. But if the community was valued at $100 million and the TIF districts were valued at $12.5 million, then you could not, because you're not meeting the threshold of the 12% rule. So total valuation has to be 12% or less. Does that make sense to everybody?
I don't wanna get off on a tangent, but where were 1 and 2? Just because,
Number one, if I recall correctly, it was the Central Main Apartments. And number 2 did include some stuff down by the Ashley facilities. I believe, but I don't have the documentation in front of me, but that's my best recollection. When we do that TIF stuff, can we just find out so we can answer that question? That's my best recollection, and it could be flip-flopped too. 1 could have been by Ashley and 2 by the Central Manor Apartments, but that's what's ringing a bell, and that was done quite a while before I was mayor, so.
I never even knew there was a 1 and 2.
Well, that all can be blurred out. Do you remember that, Joe? Do you remember? Does that sound right, Central Manor Apartments? And, yeah, it's,
And that clinic, you're able to leave us, that's where the Arcadia veterinary clinic is now?
there's
That was part of that.
something down there, but I don't remember the details on it. It's been a long time since I looked at it. Okay, we have the 2016 recreation budget on page 9 in front of us. The rec center, the summer recreation, and the aquatic center, while they're all oftentimes have some of the same staff, they are subdivided because the rec center obviously is downtown. The summer recreation includes all of the summer t-ball and the like. And then we've got the aquatic center segregated out there. You'll see staff wages, social security, utility expenses, pool maintenance and the like in there. And then all the associated costs between the rec center and the summer rec programs as well.
Question on that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
there was a new vehicle that was purchased recently. Where does that show up in here? Because that's supposed to be related to the rec, department, correct, or am I wrong?
No, you are correct, it even says that right on the side.
Well, it's on page 9, right under the total rec, where it says rec center capital outlay, 13.8.
What?
You see $13,800 under rec center capital outlay?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
That is the purchase of the truck.
Oh, okay. That's the vehicle.
Any questions about the rec center, the summer rec program, or the aquatic center?
Question. The money they take in from the concession stand, all of that comes back into this somewhat?
Yes.
So, but it doesn't show up here, so it doesn't look like, it
What you've got is
doesn't look right.
revenue, do you have a copy of that revenue sheet?
Brought that. But if you look on page 2, you know, all the revenues flow into that, and I can grab you a sheet that's sitting at City Hall. But you know, all of the revenue, shared taxes, you know, the money we get from the tax levy, the payment in lieu of taxes, all the, you know, rec center fees, the aquatic center fees, we get money from the school district when they rent the pool in the summer. You know, all of those are revenues in the city.
There's a list that's reminiscent of the fire board budget here, added just a few more though, where it says the revenue stream and how much it is, and your concession sales you'll find right in there, Mr. Cincel.
I was just wondering how the concession pay works out as far as the financial part of it.
Sure. John, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a question, line 2, rec center part-time wages. Last year's budget was $5,000, $4,260, how come right now you want $8,000? Yeah, or 2,500, sorry, last year's actual.
We had a change in employment situation in 2015, and so is that what that is, Ms. Ebert? The part-time was the help that was down there before, right, and then we had to change? Or am I not reading it right?
One of the things that goes into the rec center wages are like the tournaments that Eva runs, like, you know, she pays all of her workers, the coaches, the scorekeepers. $2,500 was probably too light in last year's budget if you look at the year-to-date actual from 2004. And she has, I think, more help, different help, but more help cleaning the rec center and doing some stuff down there. And I think, and kind of a trend that we're finding is a lot of people who would donate their time in the past to coach, don't donate anymore. They want to be paid to help coach. I mean, we do have some wonderful parent volunteers that volunteer, but I think Eva's finding in her budget that she's having to pay more people to step up and help out.
How's the time? Anything else on the recreation budget?
Question.
Yes.
Rob Wright Plan. So, obviously in 2015, we were 18% over budget. We're gonna be the same in 2016.
Did this include Ken's unemployment too? Or is that in here? The answer to your question, Rod, is absolutely not. We had a poison within this department that a lot of fixing needed to get done, and I think that those are reflected in the minutes as far as things that were not properly taken care of by somebody, they were neglected, they were, to the point where, it could have been dangerous and posed a liability for the city. And Scott Leonard did a phenomenal job with the, I believe, full and unanimous endorsement of the council here to bring those areas up to where they should have been. I believe there's still 4 or 5 things that Mr. Leonard needs to do, and that's gonna be coming up on an agenda item, on a future agenda here. But those overages, while unfortunate, were necessary, and due to, like I said, an absolute poison that the city was happy to get rid of.
I mean, even if, whatever, if it was a poison, it just seems like, last year was 256,000 expenses, you budgeted 212. You went to 241, so even if you got rid of the poison, you're still increasing your budget by that much to cover up what somebody else did again this year. So it's not the corrective measure, really.
No, I think that's an absolute unfair characterization. There's nothing being covered up there, and to say that, I think, is absolutely unfair and untrue, unless I'm misunderstanding you.
I think you're misunderstanding me. What I'm saying is if there was a poison, I can understand the 256 as being the issue, and you were over budget. I get that. What I'm saying is this year, you're at 241,000. If you got rid of the poison or the cancer, you're still at that. You're still at that point. You're still spending that money. Maybe I'm not phrasing it correctly. What I'm saying is maybe if we got rid of the problem, we're not at 241, we're closer to 212.
No, I don't think we are, because you've also got increases in wages there in each of those departments. You've got about a $2,000 increase in the rec center